mentioned to friends that we were looking to change the shop, they virtually grabbed me by my lapels and said, "You're not changing the shop."
The shop was looking a little tired. The actual layout was starting to govern the design of product and the ranges that we were putting together.
I can imagine the staff enjoying working here.
We decided to run a competition to select an architect or designer to look at the shop, and the architect that we selected was unexpected in that the return was submitted by a cooperative. We felt that they responded well to the brief, they understood the needs of the museum. So I suppose they're the kind of key features as you move through.
So the centre of the shop is divided by this what's referred to as the runway, where essentially everyone who comes into the museum comes in through the main entrance and comes through the centre of the shop. What we were trying to do was to take away parts of the structure in that space and build other spaces within it, something that challenged people's perceptions of what a shop could be.
So we can get 4 out of each one.
Yeah, so it's 4 metres, isn't it?
In every aspect of the design, we were trying to think of a way in which we could showcase making and craft somehow.
It's welded and cut together so that you see a minimal fillet, maintaining clean lines. We've used a local material, Douglas fir, and we've used a cut called quarter sawn.
Friend & Co.'s response was perfectly aligned. They managed to go back to the genesis of the museum, the magic and wonder associated with making things.
The patination is treated, it's oiled, and then it's waxed to build up a patina over time.
All of our thinking about the finishes was about finishes that wear really well, but then in the wearing actually age beautifully.
What appealed a lot about Adrian and his approach to the design was the way in which he engaged with the museum and the history of the shop.
This was the catalogue stall of 1946, displaying a very modern material, Perspex polycarbonate, which is transparent. For its time it was very brave and obviously was quite experimental. And some of that sort of process of thinking we were trying to connect to within our own approach to the shop. We wanted it to be a showcase of the latest technology. We wanted it to be the showcase of some of the latest materials.
The design process was very short. We had pretty much from June to October. And then in October we went out to tender for a main contractor to build the shop.
This integration happens in 3 places, doesn't it?
Seeing it being ripped apart was quite, felt quite shocking at times, yeah.
We've had to take over 60 tonnes now of rubble from inside of this building by hand across the pavement into 40-yard skips.
Everyone is at 5th skip right now. We need to basically get the waste out from 6 in the evening till 10. We've got to protect all the floor in the museum. Obviously there's a lot of history in there, so we don't want to damage it.
We've been doing research on 3D printing clay for the last 3 years. What we thought was perhaps, clay as a material could be part of this kind of digital revolution.
We had a Turkish pattern from an Ottoman bowl, and then we had a Chinese pattern as well, and we had various different patterns that are taken from the collection that we then digitally altered and drew, and then put in place some very clever algorithms into the pattern, which essentially were self-generating other patterns.
The robotic arm is controlled digitally to produce lines that, in a series, produce an overall form. It's a bit like using the robotic arm to coil.
This pattern has a sort of fluidity and is an endless pattern that makes a sort of ceramic carpet. They're factory made essentially because the robot is very precise. Then they're fired and glazed by hand, and as soon as that happens they turn into craft.
So Ian will take them out so you can see the runners.
That would be great. Because when you're dealing with that scale of particularly steel work, kind of 60 tonnes worth of metal, you have to go to a large-scale manufacturer.
Steel is as heavy as it can get, and we're using 12mm thick steel, and 1 metre square of that weighs 100 kilo.
The process through the factory probably at any one point involved anything from 50 to 150 people in 3 locations.
This whole process of collaboration is really key. We're making a total piece of architecture where every single aspect of the shop is carefully considered and designed.
The furniture is coming in on 40-foot trailers. We have a forklift on site that takes it from the lorry onto the pavement, and then each unit, which can weigh up to half a tonne, is manhandled into the museum on trolleys through the front door.
We always knew it was going to be a series of components, and we always wanted to express them. So here you see where the glass has been cut back to receive the timber shelf, and it's like a kind of hidden detail that makes the wood shelf look like it's floating on air. What we're trying to show off is the timber and the qualities of the timber and the warmth of the timber. We see everything within the shop as having a place and having a right fit and a right connection, and for us we call that an art of assembly. We see it as performative. We visualise the way these components float in space and connect together long before they actually do. And the idea is that you can reassemble them should you wish to.
It's almost like a blank canvas, majority of the space. You can do pretty much as you please. So that's a fun challenge for us, an opportunity to do more intricate displays.
So where is there continuity? Is it always on an empty beam then at the moment? Yeah. So where is it now? Where are they now? Show me where they are. So they're what? One, 2, 3. They're 4 thin. Here we are in the jewellery pavilion, which just went in last night, and you're beginning to see some of the finishes now. And we're beginning to see the size of it as well, the scale. So it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
The other thing that they've done, which is brilliant, is expose the ceilings. It tells you the story of the building a little bit more, and there's going to be much more lighting. There's going to be these lanterns above the shelves, which will have projections onto them.
This is one of the lantern boxes, and they're painted white to sort of illuminate as much light, because the lighting goes in here and then it's covered with a polycarbonate. This is the Pocket Workshop that's 4 days from completion. It's going to be interesting to see how they're going to use it for galleries and exhibitions and demonstrations as well.
You're in the retail space, you're in the museum, and you're learning, surrounded by our product, our merchandise, and things that reflect the museum.
It's much more of an engaged space rather than something where you consume something and take it away.
It's gone at a pace I've never experienced before on a build project, but something about that momentum has allowed us to pull together as a team. It's driven us to be bold in our design decisions.
You know it sort of somewhere in your spirit that you're in the presence of great craftsmanship, which is what the V&A stands for.
I think it's about inventing and experimenting, and the value in which research can potentially give you these transformative moments which arguably change the nature of design.